Hello. Thank you for joining me today. Today we're going to start our practice on the floor, and you'll need a strap for this practice, and I also recommend having a block, and I have one on either side of me, and I like having towels handy just because it's nice to have somewhere to rest your knees, and we'll be doing a side-side twist on our back, so it's nice to have those things handy if you need them, and it's much easier to reach for them if they're close by. So find your strap, have that close by to you because we're going to need that fairly soon, and we'll make our way just flat on our back. And find your way so that you feel that you're able to relax down. So we want to feel like we can let our palms face up towards the ceiling. We can roll our shoulders down. You can even allow your toes to kind of splay out to the sides. And just kind of take a moment to really notice your breath here. And maybe, since we've been here for a moment, maybe you can really draw your shoulders down away from your ears. You can kind of pick up your hands and kind of direct your wrists down towards your feet a little bit more, your fingertips. And we just kind of check in with our bodies and just kind of notice anything that you might be feeling, any kind of tension or even tenderness today. Or even if it's gratitude, maybe taking a moment to just be grateful that we made it here on our mat today. Sometimes that is the most difficult part. The yoga practice is the easy part of the challenge. But taking that time to roll out your mat can be difficult, so thank yourself. We'll slowly start to extend our arms up overhead, and we'll bring our feet together so they don't have to touch. They can be up to hip width apart, and we'll just slowly start to reach long. So reach with fingers and reach with toes and get real long here, and then we'll slowly let an exhale out and we'll let ourselves relax. You can kind of bend your elbows a little bit here so that you feel like you can kind of a little release in shoulders. And we'll do that again. So we'll just slowly start to lengthen. So we'll reach with fingers, reach with toes, reach, get long here. And then we'll relax down again. You can let the toes fall out to the sides, bend your elbows. And maybe your eyes are still closed here. You can have your eyes closed for a good amount of this practice if you feel you can. And then we'll lengthen long one more time, but this time let's reach over towards our right side. So it's like we're taking our bodies and making a crescent shape. Reaching over towards our right side. So you can kind of feel this length that you're getting here from the bottom set of ribs to your hips, even into your shoulders. So we keep our shoulders plugged in, but we're still reaching over. And you can even kind of pick up your body a little bit to shift it further as you see fit, as long as you don't feel like you're going too far. And you can even kind of walk your heels over towards the side, making this full crescent shape. Then we'll slowly make our way back towards the middle, and we'll kind of walk our heels back, and we'll pause here. And we'll repeat that for the opposite side. So we get long, we lengthen, and then we reach over towards our left side. So we start to get long here on the right side of our body. So if you'd like, you can kind of heel toe or heel, walk your feet over towards your left side, finding length here along the side of the body from hips to bottom set of ribs. We'll slowly start to inch our way back towards the middle. So you can kind of shift your heels back with you. And then we'll let our arms relax down to our sides. And we'll draw our knees in. So I'm going to bend one knee at a time, feet flat to the floor, and then hug my knees in towards my chest, and then find some movement here that feels good. So you can kind of shift and sway as you like, kind of rocking side to side, kind of massaging low back. And you can kind of make some circles here if you'd like, if that feels good for you. From here, let's find some stillness. So kind of find your knees back to that center point. And then we'll bring arms into a T position and then shift the knees over towards your left side. So blocks are nice here, so you can rest your knees down on your block. Sometimes a towel underneath of the knees is nice. Sometimes it's best for knees to be relaxed down onto the floor, onto a towel, and then maybe you like to have a block on between your knees. So just take a moment to find whatever props you might need. And when you feel like you find that good position that you need, and I kind of like a block under my knees for my starter, for my twist, I'm going to start to find my gaze shifting over towards that opposite side. So over towards your right. And we'll slowly start to shift our gaze back up towards the ceiling. We'll kind of remove any blankets you need to, and we can kind of just set them down. And then it will slowly, you can either draw your knees back in towards your chest, or you can kind of bring your feet flat and kind of walk them in. And then we'll kind of shift to make sure that our hips are back to the center once more, and we'll draw our knees in towards our chest again. Then we'll start to release, and then start to shift the knees over towards the right side. So whatever props you needed on the other side, I recommend for this side as well. And I just always kind of keep it simple. It's my first twist of the day, so I just want to kind of allow myself to just enjoy my twist and not try to push myself into something deeper than I'm ready for. Just finding your breath here, in and out. Gaze over towards your left side. We'll slowly start to take our gaze back up towards the ceiling. We'll kind of draw our belly muscles in. I'm going to remove my towel here and then slowly shift my knees up. So hug your knees in towards your chest. And then from here, we'll slowly release into our knees. And you can leave your feet flat to the floor, knees bent. I'm going to straighten my legs though for this one, and we're going to find our strap. So our first thing, and I'm kind of shifted off of my mat during this time, so I'm going to make sure I'm back on my mat so that I feel that my heels are on here, so that we don't, whenever we're shifting in different poses, our heels are on our mat. And I'm just going to take my strap and unravel it, and it doesn't have to be too much, just for starters. And I'm gonna bring my arms right out in front of me here. So I wanna make sure that my wrists and shoulders are nice and lined up. So from here, we just wanna make sure everything feels like we're nice and stacked just to start. And so I have kind of like fists here, but I'm not really holding my strap very hard at all. It's just more to kind of keep my wrists and my hands in the right position as I slowly start to shift my arms up and over my head. But I keep my shoulders nice and plugged in the whole time. Let's bring them all the way back forward. So little pops are okay as long as it doesn't hurt. Same thing, so we just slowly shift, and this might be where you sit, and that's okay. Pause there. But if you still need a little bit more before you start to get a stretch, then that's okay. Once you find your stretch, pause there just a second and then bring your way back up. And we're just going to keep doing this. So we just kind of slowly shift the arms up overhead. And you find once you've kind of worked on it a little bit, that you can kind of stay in it a little bit longer. You can get a little bit further back, but we're just going to kind of warm into it. So we're not spending more than 2 seconds into that position of the arms all the way up. And kind of check in just to make sure that you're still keeping everything nice and stacked. So shoulders are still plugged in, really getting long here. So another pop. And then when you're ready, we can slowly let's find this one, and we'll stay with the arms back just for a couple of breaths. So remember, this isn't us trying to be holding our strap really hard. We're just kind of holding it there. It's just to kind of keep us and our hands, arms, and shoulders in the same position. We'll slowly shift up. You're probably starting to really feel it. That's okay. And we're gonna do one more like that. So if you're kind of finished and you think that you've done enough, that's okay. This is the first time you've maybe ever done this, so take your time with it. We can always come back to this video and do this one again if you liked this video. And I'm just gonna pause here and just find that deep stretch underneath my arms. And then we'll slowly start to shift back up, nice and slow. So we're gonna still need our strap. So if you need to, kind of the shoulders need some little shoulder action here, kind of shrugging and rolling the shoulders a little bit, that's always okay. But we're gonna need our strap again, but I wanna take my strap and kind of fold it in half. And I'm just gonna take the strap, fold it in half, and just set it kind of on my belly for right now. And you can always get to it later. And then slowly, let's bend one knee at a time. And then we'll slowly start to draw right knee in. So I'm gonna stack my hands. I interlace my fingers automatically, but I'm gonna stack my hands so that one hand is stacked right on top of the other. And I'm gonna kind of take my hands a little bit more over towards the right side and just kind of draw my knee in. And then kind of make some circles. So you can kind of make these as big circles as you choose. Doesn't really matter how big your circles are. And then you can kind of go back and forth if you'd like. I kind of prefer the circles myself because you can kind of really get deep down and then you kind of ease off immediately. I like those kinds of movements for myself, but you might need more side to side. But also remember that things that we don't typically like, we probably need the most. So with keeping that in mind. And when you're ready, we're gonna find some stillness. And we're gonna start to draw our right knee towards our left shoulder. So it's gonna cross over, but it's not gonna go very far. We'll slowly start to draw the right knee over towards the left shoulder. So if you wanna shift your hands a little more over towards the side of the knee, that's okay, just as long as you're kind of drawing it in and over at the same time. And then if you need a little bit more work, start to kind of press left foot into your mat. And if that feels good and you think you could do a little bit more, lengthen your leg long. So we're just gonna kind of point out into the heel and just kind of see how we feel here. So it's gonna be kind of that action of drawing one hip point from the other, kind of like scissors. So we kind of open them up. So we're gonna draw the left knee, or the right knee, I apologize, towards the left shoulder. And we're gonna draw the left heel and left leg down at the same time. So we're gonna kind of pull these two hip points away from one another. We'll slowly start to kind of relax and release a little. We'll bend our left knee. Left foot comes flat, and we can start to make some circles again. So finding here just what feels good here. So nice circles. And then, so we want to make sure that this left foot feels nice and planted. So we're going to keep this foot planted. We're going to keep our shoulders down this whole time, and we're going to find our strap. So find that little point that's that fold of your strap. And we're gonna find, it's gonna come right to, and you can lift your head to do that. You're gonna find the fold of your strap is right on the ball of your foot so that you can extend your foot up towards the ceiling. And just pause here and just kind of check in with where you feel. So we want to make sure once again that our head, neck, and shoulders is staying on our mat. We want to make sure that our low back as well is going to stay onto our mat. And we're just going to hang out here for a moment. So don't feel like you need to pull and tug on this strap. We're really just kind of encouraging more length, and it just gives our leg just enough support that we can really get the length that it really can have. So we'll find when you feel like you're ready here, so check in just first, left foot, just make sure that all the points on your left foot are kind of grounded, so all the four corners. And then we'll start to shift our right foot from side to side. So that, again, doesn't need to be a big movement. I encourage you to start out real slow. And just kind of breathe here. And you might notice that you can kind of start to make these movements a little bigger. And that's good if you feel like that's good for you. And you can even kind of pause. So you find a spot that feels really nice, pause there. And I just have my right hand to my strap. It just depends on what works nice for you. And you can just kind of keep shifting. So maybe you find another spot and you just kind of want to pause there. Maybe even left hand down for support, kind of grounding down for you is perfect. And we just kind of find what feels good here. So you can even kind of make more like a figure 8 if that feels well for you. And just finding what feels good. And then we're going to find, so this one we're going to kind of reach a little bit further into our strap. And we're going to still stay grounded here, but we want to make sure that we feel that our leg is kind of nice and even with where it usually comes out from our hip. And then we'll just slowly start to draw it towards us. So that doesn't have to be a big movement. It doesn't even have to be a real straight leg, just to still get that length here. So nice and grounded into our left foot, extending out into our right heel of our extended leg. And kind of breathing into the tight spaces that you might be feeling. So just kind of allowing that length, not forcing it, just kind of encouraging it, nice and easy. Then we'll slowly start to bend into our right knee and we'll unloop our strap and we'll just kind of hug the knee in for a moment and just kind of find some stillness. And if you like, you can always bring both knees in at the same time if that feels good. It's kind of nice to bring both knees in so you kind of feel how different they are. That I feel like my right knee is coming in far more than my left, just because of how I feel. So it's not really, if I look at them, they don't look too different, but I feel completely different drawing my right knee in versus my left. Then let's start to find, we'll just do a little simple bridge pose. So we'll slowly start to release into our feet so that our knees, so that our feet come flat to our mat. And we want our heels as close in towards our buttocks as we can. So I like to be able to just to feel my fingertips to the backs of my heels. Start to roll your shoulders down, start to open your heart, and we'll get real strong into our feet and legs, active into our feet and legs as we start to engage our buttocks to lift the hips. So hopefully your strap doesn't fall on you. And we'll slowly just lower down nice and slow. Taking your time, stay strong in your buttocks until you're all the way down. And then we'll start to draw our left knee in. So we'll just start to kind of repeat the same thing. So I kind of shift my hands, I stack my hands a little bit more over towards the left side. And let's just make some circles just to begin. Again, you can kind of go more side to side if that feels good for you. I like circles for myself, and you can kind of move really into it as you see fit. And then we'll start to find some stillness. And again, so I'm going to kind of shift my hands a little bit more over to the side and kind of draw my left knee in towards my right shoulder. And if you feel good here, you can start to kind of press your right foot into your mat a little bit more, and that'll start to draw those two hip points further away from one another. And maybe you'd like to lengthen your right leg long. And you can, again, kind of lengthen out into your right leg as much as you choose. And you can kind of continue to draw your left knee towards your right shoulder, and at the same time, you're lengthening your right leg long. So you're kind of drawing those two hip points further away from each other, but subtly. We'll slowly start to release our knee here. Find your strap, so find that fold, that center point of your strap, and we'll bring it to the ball of our foot. And I'm gonna go ahead and bend my right knee because that's what we did last time. So I wanna ground into my right knee here and just lengthen my left leg long. And so just remember that at first it felt really tight, so we always want to take a second and just kind of allow the body just to kind of adjust to what we're doing. And just making sure that that fold of the strap is really right here and that extended and onto the ball of the foot so that it's really allowing our foot to extend here. And if you'd like, you can kind of find some side-to-side movements when you feel like you're ready. And they can be soft and subtle, or you can make them a little bit bigger as you see fit. And you can also try more of a figure 8 if that feels good for you too. Just don't forget to be grounded into your right foot as you're lengthening out into the heel of your left leg. And head, neck, and shoulders stays to your mat. Then we'll start to find some stillness, and I'm going to reach a little bit further, and I'm going to use my left hand so that my right hand can kind of ground down a little bit more, and I'm going to start to just draw my left leg towards me. Again, bends and knees is always a good option here if you need it. It might allow you to get a little bit more of that flexibility that you need. And we'll slowly start to bend our knee, and we'll start to remove our strap. And we'll just set our strap here to the side, and then we'll just draw our knees in towards our chest. And you can find some movements here if that feels good for you. Then release your knees. Start to bring your feet flat to your mat again. Start to draw your heels in as close as you can so that you feel like you can maybe reach for them so that they're as close to your buttocks as you can. Slowly roll your shoulders down, arms just to your sides, fingers spread apart. And then we'll use hands, arms, shoulders, feet, and engage the buttocks. So everything's going to be real strong. So shoulders, fingers, arms even. And then we engage the buttocks and lift the hips. So we'll really kind of press into our heels here a little bit, or a lot, actually. So we're nice and long here in the front of the body. Then we'll slowly lower down, nice and slow. And then we'll pick up our feet and then we'll set them right back down. So it doesn't need to be more than an inch off of our mat. And then we'll cross the right ankle over the left thigh. And you may want to shift your blocks just out of the way, just depending on how far down you end up going. And we'll start to just from here. So I just have my arms here for support, and I'll just kind of shift and kind of rock my top leg from side to side. So the heel from the side and then the knee over to the side. So kind of my upper body stays in the same position. All the movement is from my hips, and I just kind of shift from side to side. So this might feel like a big movement to you, and that's perfect. If you, however, need a little bit more work here, and you'll know if you do, you can still keep your arms just as they are. Start to lift your left foot up and then kind of continue it. So this one is not going to be nearly as dramatic of a movement from side to side, maybe especially depending on how strongly you draw your left thigh towards you. But you can kind of keep it a little bit more relaxed, say, versus how we do a reclined pigeon, if you've ever practiced that one with me. And we just kind of continue here. So it takes a lot of strength here. So kind of use your arms here for leverage. So you can kind of press down into your arms and shoulders all the way out into your fingertips as you kind of shift from side to side. And you can kind of make this a big movement by kind of shifting a little bit more over and taking your time with it. There's no kind of right or wrong way, because we're all kind of different here and how we feel and what our individual needs are. And if you're kind of more into stillness, there's always the reclined pigeon option where we just draw this left knee towards us, and you can always use your strap instead of, if you're struggling to kind of reach it today, you can draw it towards you like this, and you can find your way however you choose. So let's kind of start to shift down out of our pose. So we'll kind of release here, let our left foot come down. We'll uncross the right, and we'll then cross the left over the right. And then we kind of just let our left knee kind of relax down. And then I'm going to bring my arms back down to my sides and kind of a little distance away, come about a hand's distance away from me. And that just kind of gives you some leverage here. And then we'll just shift from side to side again. So this one is with the foot down to begin. And then if you already are feeling like you're ready to find that other variation, come back to stillness and draw this knee in towards you. So you're kind of drawing your right knee towards you, and then we'll start to shift from side to side. Same actions here. And again, you can kind of make this a real big movement, or you can keep it very simple. It's really your choice. And we'll just kind of wrap up this one, this rotation, this shift, and then we'll start to find stillness. We'll release our foot, we'll uncross our left leg, and then we'll start to draw our knees in towards us. And then you can kind of find some little movements here if you'd like. And then we'll start to find, let's bring our feet down to the floor, knees bent, and then let's take our little toe side of the feet towards the outside edge of our mat. So you can kind of feel it with your little toes. And then we'll start to find one knee at a time starts to draw in. And you can kind of gauge how you would like to practice this. You can kind of let both knees shift down, or you can keep the top one up and bring one in towards the middle as you try to keep the other one more upright, or you can kind of go all the way with it. You can try to get the inner knee to touch the floor if you'd like. It's really up to you, and there's no perfect way for this pose. It's just what feels right for you. And this just kind of resets the hips a little bit. It's a little twist in here too. So you can kind of let the torso twist with you a little bit, kind of grounding each side. And then we'll find some stillness. We'll bring our feet back in. We'll pick them up just a little bit, set them back down, about an inch or so, just and then set them back down. And then that's just gonna make sure that our feet are in a good position. Then we're gonna start to bring our heels in close again. So one more time, heels in close. And then we wanna just kind of make sure they're as close in as we can. Even if you have to pick them up and bring them in, that's okay. And then arms just to our sides, roll our shoulders down, nice and strong in hands, arms, and shoulders. Strong into our buttocks and into our feet, and then we'll engage the buttocks to lift the hips. And just one more breath here. And then we'll slowly start to lower down, but stay strong, especially into your buttocks until you are all the way rested down. And then we'll start to draw our knees in towards our chest. We'll bring our right arm up above our head and we'll roll over to our side to elevate our heart. And just pause here just for a moment. And then we'll start to make our way up nice and slow. Let's find our way to a table. And once you get to your table here, we'll find, take a second and put some padding underneath of our knees. So I told you to have some towels. I hope you listened. And find your towels. So I have two. If you have one big one, that works too. A beach towel. Sometimes I use a beach towel and that works fine. But this one I just have two towels. So I'm just going to bring one under each knee. And then we find our way to our table. And once you get to your table, we just need to find some little cat-cow movements. So before we go too far though, I want to make sure that you have some space in the back part of your mat, but most of your space is up here in the front because we're going to do some work here in just a moment, and we're going to need all of this beautiful space. So from here, from our table, so make sure wrists are right underneath of your shoulders, and then we'll start to initiate our movement with the pelvis. So we're just going to start to kind of tilt the pelvis back and forth. And I'm sure you're familiar with cat-cow poses, how we kind of move into them, and I'll kind of cue you in. So if you know what to do here and you're kind of already ready, you can go ahead and start your movements. But once you start to find length in the front of your body, start to shine your light in the center of your chest forward. And then when you start to round into your back, you can start to draw your chin in towards your chest and your chest towards your hips. And we just continue this back and forth. So we lengthen here in the front of the body. On our exhale, we start to draw chin towards chest and chest towards hips. So nice and slow, back and forth. So just kind of finding your pace and your breath. Your movements that feel good here. We'll slowly start to find our way back to our neutral position, so back to our table once more. And then we'll take our hands, so I'm going to take my hands forward a full step, and then one more step, and then I'm going to curl my toes under and lengthen to a full plank. So nice and strong in hands, arms, and shoulders, doming into the back here, drawing your belly muscles in. On your exhale, we'll bring our sits bones high, sinking into our heels. We'll slowly start to bring our knees back down. We'll then find, so it's going to be kind of between a child's pose and also kind of between a puppy. And we'll just bring our forehead down so our hands can kind of stay right in the same position. And just kind of hang out here for a moment. We'll slowly start to inch our way back up. So we'll come right back to our plank. So we'll curl our toes under, we lengthen to our plank. And on your exhale, we'll bring our sits bones high, downward facing dog. So you might feel a little different in your down dog than you normally would as your first couple of the day, just because we've already opened up so much. Let's start to bring our knees back down and then rest our forehead back down to our mat. So and you can stay down there. So just by opening up underneath of our arms and opening underneath or opening our hamstrings and our hips, we just have this more availability to get into our pose a little bit more prepared. So you might feel a little different than you normally would, and I hope so for you. And each time you do your downward dog, you should start to feel a little bit more comfortable. So when you're ready, this inhale, we shift up. We'll curl toes under. We lengthen to our plank. On your exhale, sinking into your heels, sits bones high. And we'll slowly start to inch our way back down to hands and knees, down to forehead resting down. Just letting ourselves rest here. So I have my elbows kind of bent here, so that's just taking some of the pressure off my head and neck, and I can just kind of enjoy this pose right where I am. And we'll slowly start to shift up. So let's do one more like that. So we slowly shift up. So we come into our full plank. So we draw our belly muscles in, our shoulders and wrists nice and stacked to start, nice and doming in the back. But then whenever we start to bring our sits bones high, we start to shift into sinking into our heels. So we find ourselves nice and strong into our hands, even into our fingers, our thumbs. So it's not just on our palms. And we slowly start to sink back down to our table. So we lower our knees down, and then we slowly shift our forehead back down to our mat. We'll slowly start to inch our elbows a little closer towards us, nice and slow. And then let's kind of turn. So I'm going to take my towel here, and I'm going to stack one on top of the other. Or, I'm going to actually change my mind. I'm going to fold mine so that I sit down on this one. And then for this one, I'm going to take myself down to using my other towel for underneath of my ankles. So I'm going to bring myself so that I'm sitting on the edge of my one towel, and then I'm going to bring my ankles in, but I'm going to bring them in pretty tight, this one. So this variation is kind of more of that butterfly variation. So I draw my heels in as close as I can, and just find just to start, see how you feel here in sitting up nice and tall. So if you kind of feel like you have to round a little bit more into your spine in order to achieve this, then maybe you need more height. So I'm going to do that. I need more height here. So I'm going to take my other blanket and set it underneath of me here, so that I'm gonna sit on both. So I thought I might need that support underneath of my ankles, but in fact, I need more support under my sits bones. So I'm gonna, this way it kind of brings my sits bones up a little higher, and then I feel like I can really shift into this tall position. So it kind of just lifts the hips a little bit more, so your back has an easier time being flat. So you can kind of draw the heels in wherever you feel comfortable. So don't feel like you have to bring them all the way in towards the groin. That's not our goal here. And then we'll just find ourselves sitting up nice and tall. We're gonna try to open into our chest as best we can. And since this is kind of a new pose for you, feel free to kind of find some movement from side to side from time to time. And you can kind of go back and forth with stillness and shifting. And you can have hands resting here to your feet, to your ankles, even to your shins as well. Just kind of find, I kind of like just around my ankles so that I can kind of remind myself to stay tall. Shoulders down and just kind of checking into my breath. Maybe closing your eyes if you're in stillness. And if you're still kind of finding the little rocking from side to side, that's a good option here too. And if you'd like, if you're feeling good here with me, maybe you'd like to hinge a little bit at the hips. And that doesn't have to be a big movement. That can be a simple one. And since our feet are so close in, our heels are so close into us, it does kind of limit as to how far forward you can fold. And again, if you need to find some movement, even with your little forward fold option here, that's okay too. And sometimes that movement is kind of what kind of helps me tolerate the pose a little bit better. We don't want to go so far as that we're feeling pain here, but we do want to feel like we're getting a deep stretch. So discomfort, but not pain. Never pain. We never move towards pain, especially if it's a sharp pain. We just like to kind of challenge ourselves, but I'd say 95% is kind of where I sit. Maybe one more little rock side to side, and maybe you want to kind of fold a little bit more before we kind of wrap up this pose. And just kind of find what feels good here. And there is an option too, if you need support underneath of your knees here, you can always bring blocks underneath of you. I'm gonna go ahead though and start to shift my legs out long for just one moment, just to kind of give my hips a little bit of a break. And then I'm gonna start to cross my legs and just come to a regular seat. So if you're still sitting on your blankets or your towel here, that's perfect. It's just going to help you sit up a little taller, which is always okay. And we'll just kind of check in and just kind of notice how we feel. Maybe letting the palms rest, palms up, or hands rest to the tops of your thighs. And just kind of checking in and noticing how you feel here. And just noticing how different you feel than whenever you first got here on your mat today. And take full responsibility because you did this. You brought yourself here today. Thank your body for the work that it does, but don't forget to thank you. And so thank you very much for joining me today. I always enjoy it. Thank you. And if you liked this video, feel free to hit the like button at the bottom of your screen and give me any commentary that you'd like as far as poses that you would like to see more of, or something that you particularly liked about this particular class Every little bit of input helps me to formulate more of what you need. So thank you so much again for joining me today. Thank you.